Hello, Dr. Jay Hitson here with Transformation Life Centers. We talk a lot about nutrition, and especially whole food nutrition. I am not a major advocate for using lots of supplementation, only when we realize that there are certain restrictions on the diet or certain foods you simply will not consume, or you just simply can't consume enough of the right foods to meet the needs of your system. We always want to start with whole food nutrition first though. Go to the grocery store and get your food there, get your nutrients there. Now, with regards to nutrition, we have our Cellular Health Food Plan. Now, this is a much more restricted food plan to reduce and completely eliminate inflammation in our systems. The reason we do this is that a lot of pain is actually coming from excess inflammation in our joints, everywhere in our body. And basically that inflammation, especially things like sugar, feed inflammation. And so the inflammation keeps creating more and more and more, even when the reason why you were inflamed in the first place has gone away. The other factor with regards to inflammation, especially in disease processes like cardiovascular disease, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and diabetes, for instance, inflammation plays a big part in keeping those ongoing diseases. So we have to flush the inflammation out of your system. The most important thing to start off with is proper hydration, to simply flush out all of the lactic acid and various other toxins that are going on throughout your body. And then also using ice to also decrease specific points of inflammation. So for instance, if you are actually, the joint, your neck for instance, is one of the major areas we are constantly using ice for. We need to get rid of that inflammation by using ice. There are obviously different NSAIDs and anti-inflammatories out there that you can take, over the counter or prescription. That is not what we want to be using here because we're adding more toxins into the system with those things. So we want to be using all natural ways to decrease our inflammation. And nutrition is the best way. So after you've started the hydration and you're using the ice for specific points where you have inflammation, then we want to start with these anti-inflammatory foods. Now, whenever you look at your Cellular Health Food Plan, you will see that it is heavily dominated on lean meats, fruits, and vegetables. Spices are all great, and then you'll see your various ways to hydrate via water is being the number one. Trying really hard to avoid any caffeine during this time because caffeine also creates inflammation. Now during this process, we really want you to follow this dietary plan for about 3 weeks. That gives us time for a lot of the inflammation to have subsided and we get a baseline. From there, we can start one at a time adding certain foods back into your diet. For instance, one of the big things that we're looking at, you'll see a very, very little, almost no grains on the anti-inflammation diet. We have to figure out which grains work for you and which ones work against you. We're almost never going to see white processed flour being a good thing for people's systems. But there are certain grains, whole grains, whole wheat, especially quinoa, and some of those other grains that a lot of people respond very, very well to, some not so much. That's why we have to add them in one at a time and then watching how our bodies respond to each and every one of these different elements. So go on this particular diet and just do it, give yourself 3 weeks. 3 weeks. During that time, at first, we do typically see some negative side effects from it because you are in a detoxification process and flushing out so much inflammation. You'll notice sore joints, you'll notice fatigue, malaise, sometimes you'll get headaches. Drink more water if that's the case. But once you get over that process, and especially I'll note this, if you have a strong sugar addiction, there is definitely a process of withdrawal, just getting away from the sugars. And that's one of the reasons why you're going to see on this diet it's almost all whole foods, and you're going to see no processed foods. That's because they sneak sugar into so many of our different foods. I mean, if you start reading labels, you're going to find very, very few that don't have sugar, things that are processed that don't have sugar in them. So that's one of the things why we go into all of these whole foods, because then things like chicken, broccoli, asparagus, you don't have to worry about added sugars. They are whole foods, one ingredient, and that's it. So you do that for a process of 3 weeks, detoxify your system, and get rid of the inflammation. You're going to notice after you get through that first part of the detoxification, you start to notice many positive side effects. One of them being a whole lot less pain, another one being a lot more energy, and we always see sleeping a whole lot better, longer restful sleep whenever we get away from when we start getting away from all of these various toxic foods. Now, once you get through your 3 weeks, we start adding foods back. Keep a very strong note of what you're adding on the various days, so that you know whenever you have, when you don't feel good, when you have that fatigue, that's one of the number one symptoms that your body will respond to, will be just fatigue. That's an indication that particular food is draining to your system. Just be mindful and aware of those various things. Now, if you use this cellular health food plan in conjunction with the LT360 principles, you typically will see a pretty significant weight loss as well. Now, the reason we're doing this isn't for weight loss, but it's a nice side effect. With regards to your food plan, if you have questions, please bring them up. And the biggest factor is just give yourself, the solid 3 weeks to detox, and to find out how healthy your system can be. And then as we're doing that, we can also start then to be looking at, are there going to be some supplementation needs to get you to where you want to be? I'm Dr. J. Hitson with Transformation Life Centers, where we get you healthy at the cellular level.